At this point in time, I'm extremely bullish about what's going to happen in the UK and what's going to happen in Europe. The UK in particular, I think, the UK has been a very, very cheap market, and hasn't been invested in because it hasn't had a stable government for a number of years. Now, I'm not here as a sort of politician, but regardless of where you voted at the last general election, there's stability, and now it looks like we actually have a stable government with a significant majority. I think that is going to open the doors for literally a tidal wave of international investment to be able to come into the UK.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Leaders. I hope you're all doing well. Please do remember to like, share, subscribe, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Today we have a great guest, Alasdair Haynes, CEO at Aquis Exchange, one of the fastest growing companies in Europe and in the UK's top 100. Alasdair is a creator and facilitator of next generation financial markets through the provision of accessible, simple and efficient stock exchanges, trading venues and technologies. Alasdair, great to have you with us. How are you?
Hi Sam, look, it's great to be on your show. Thanks very much indeed. No, it's good here. I'm sitting in France. I'm working from home from my place there. It's nice and sunny outside, very rare for this summer, but great to be here.
Yeah, this summer hasn't been that good, has it? I mean, I'm sitting in London now, and I can just about see some blue skies. So we'll take that, and we'll crack on with it. Just to set the scene for our listeners and watchers, can you tell us a little bit about your journey that led to you joining Aquis Exchange?
Yes, I mean, I've been in the industry for 47 years. Absolutely love this industry. And, I'd like to do another 47. I think it's probably highly unlikely, but I'm certainly going to give it a go. I used to work for a business called Chi-X Europe. We became the largest electronic trading platform in Europe. We sold that business to BATS, which is now the CBOE. And from that, I actually started and founded Aquis Exchange. So, I founded the business 11 years ago. It's a challenger business, and I've always been a challenger as a disruptor. I think a disruption can be seen as a very positive thing. I think I was disruptive at school, so I apologize to my teachers now. I'm probably disruptive at home, and certainly I've been disruptive in the city. But I think it's all for the good. We need to get the public back into public markets. We need to innovate and change. We're talking an industry that actually hasn't truly modernized in the way that other industries have. And I see myself as somebody who can help that process and help that change happen.
Yeah, how would you say your experiences that you've had that have led to where you are now, how have they sort of helped you be innovative and disrupt and be a challenger? How has that all sort of come together?
Well, I think being a challenger, you learn from your mistakes. And, let's be perfectly honest, in life, everyone should learn from their mistakes. And it's from the things that we've done in the past that actually we can change the future. And I think when we look at exchanges, it is all about changing the future. And, and for me, change is an important thing. I had a boss many years ago. He gave me a picture of a gazelle, and he said, Alasdair, what you need to do is when you wake up, first thing in the morning is you start running. And that's what you must do. And I've never really changed. He said, if you sit there, you'll get eaten. And it's the same in our world. So it is about just getting up and moving. And funnily enough, I find change really interesting and sort of behavioral change, because it's not something that humans actually like to do. Most people like to be told what to do and actually go out and do it, and they can do it very well. That doesn't make them bad people or necessarily good people. But what it does, I find I'm the sort of person who does like change. And therefore, it's that thing of looking and trying to work out the way that what you think the market is going to be, and how do you force that change on people? And change isn't an easy thing. And in the process, you do make mistakes. And as I said earlier, that's how you have to set your business up, to make quite certain that you learn from those mistakes, don't make them again, and move forward. So it's that experience that has allowed Aquis to do the sort of amazing thing that it has done. And as a challenger exchange, we are taking on incumbents that have been around for hundreds of years, done business in the same way for hundreds of years, uses technology that is 20, 30 years old in many, many cases. Some of these big national exchanges literally using technology before the iPhone was even invented. that was created before the iPhone was even invented. And therefore, it is about modernizing a business and bringing that competition that drives innovation, that forces the change for the market.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everything's going well right now. One of the fastest growing, as we mentioned, you've got double-digit growth as well. And let's face it, challenging market conditions. What strategies have sort of helped you to be key to this success? And also, are you content with that, or is it we want more?
Oh, I always want more. I mean, let's make it absolutely clear. I think there's huge opportunities in front of us. If you look at just the UK economy, and I don't know, I imagine you will have listeners and viewers all over the world, but the UK economy has struggled for growth. And we are brilliant. As a country, we are truly, truly brilliant at startup capital. We have more entrepreneurs than probably almost any country in the world. In all sorts of industries, fintech, biotech, sort of whether it's electric vehicles, whatever. There's some superb entrepreneurs, but we are rubbish as a country in the scale-up capital phase. And you have to really look at why is it that America, love it or hate it, and I'm a great fan, but America has much, much deeper and better capital markets than we do. And that's just a fact. And I believe there are two very clear reasons for that. And the first is the competition amongst exchanges drives an innovation. And it wasn't really until NASDAQ took off in the late 1990s that we started to see this competitive tension that drove the changes that we've seen and the America has benefited from today. And the second thing they do is they have the public in public markets. Anybody who has traveled to America, landed in New York, landed in Chicago, landed in Los Angeles, and say you work in financial services, you start hearing about the taxi driver's 401k before you can say anything. And they will start giving you all ideas about their portfolio, etc. The appetite and interest in equity is huge, and we don't have that here. And I think those are the things that I think we have to change. So it is about bringing competition into our industry to change UK capital markets. And it's through that we can start to get scale up capital to these vitally important businesses to change the economy in the UK. And to do that, I mean, Aquis is made up of three divisions. We have a markets business. The markets business trades the top 6,000 stocks across the whole of Europe.
Yep.
We have a technology business where we literally have, we believe, the world's cutting edge technology. We'll talk later about cloud technology and the influence that has on the industry. And the third thing we do is we actually have a stock exchange, the Aquis Stock Exchange. It's one of three regulated investment exchanges in the UK. Only two of them actually have equities on them. That obviously is the London Stock Exchange with its AIM market, and the Aquis Stock Exchange with our regulated growth market. And it's that competition and challenge that we think we can drive the change to get the public invested in stocks. And it is so important. You look at, all these businesses around the world, most people are trading in the top, what used to be called the Magnificent Seven stocks. And that from trading those stocks has moved to other stocks in the United States, but not the sort of way that we trade in the UK. It's traditional, it's old-fashioned, we work on a retail service provider model, it's not easy to access, and we have to question today. I get a lot of information from my children who are 22 and 26, and you look at it, when they trade, or when they're involved or their friends trade, they literally pick up their smartphone. They have the information at their fingertips. They get immediate access. They can see exactly the history of something. They can see where they think it's going to go. All this information is there. It's cheap, it's quick, it's easy. When you look at the equity market, somebody today calls up either online or actually physically phones a broker who communicates to a market maker, who communicates to an exchange, who sends that data to a data company, who then the exchange talks to a CCP. The CCP talks to a custodian. The custodian then transfers the shares and talks to a registrar. If you built a business today, there is absolutely no way you would build it that way. So this is all about, Aquis is all about the transformation of way we do business in order to make it more efficient to the end user. And ultimately, that end user, whether it's through funds or whether it's through pension or whether it's through personal investment, is the public. And that's what we need to make certain that they benefit.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Just thinking, 10, 15, 20 years ago, how people invested compared to now. And it's just night and day, isn't it? It really, really is. Would you say you're bullish on the UK in the next sort of 5, 10 years? Do you think we're going to start heading in the right direction?
Well, I'll caveat my comments with you don't found a stock exchange business on your own and then take it public if you're not bullish about life. So
Correct.
I'm remarkably bullish. But actually, at this point in time, I'm extremely bullish about what's going to happen in the UK and what's going to happen in Europe. The UK in particular, I think, the UK has been a very, very cheap market, and it's
Hmm.
been hasn't been invested in because it hasn't had a stable government for a number of years.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not here as a sort of politician, but regardless of where you voted at the last general election, there's stability, and now it looks like we actually have a stable government with a significant majority. I think that is going to open the doors for literally a tidal wave of international investment to be able to come into the UK. So I think there are tremendous opportunities. If we can get the capital markets right efficiently and effectively by better technology and better methods and ways of trading, in other words, being innovative, I think the capital will arrive not only domestically, which it has been in the past few years, but actually internationally, and particularly from the United States.
Yeah, which was important, isn't it? I think that'd be a great move there. We mentioned Aquis Exchange at the beginning, one of the fastest growing, which is great. One of the largest exchanges in Europe now. In terms of trying to increase that market share, how do we go about that? I mean, you currently turn over, is it 2 billion euros daily? Is that right?
Around about 2 billion a day, and that
Yeah,
makes us the seventh largest exchange
7.
group in terms of turnover
Yeah.
every day. Um, well, as I said, of the three divisions in the markets business, I absolutely believe we can be a top three player.
Yeah.
That means I've more or less got to double the market share that I have today, which is
Hmm.
around about 5% of the whole of European trading. And I think we can get to 10% in the medium term. This is never a straight line. These businesses are tough.
Yeah.
A challenger is challenging. And you always have to say to your investors, look, there is a certain amount of patience here, but we are very innovative, very creative, and bringing in all sorts of new products and changing the way that markets operate. And we do that in competition directly to the national exchanges in Europe and the other competitors that are out there. I think that innovation can continue and will continue. And I think through that, we can get to our market share, a significant market share. Um, when it comes to the technology business, there is a huge change going on. As I said before, most exchanges around the world are operating technology that could be 20, 30 years old. When I look at what we've done and what we've done in the cloud and what we can do to affect, more efficiency, more resilience, more security, and everything else, then I think we can really, really modernize that. And there are around about 400, 450 exchanges in the world, be it through different asset classes, that at some point over the next 5 to 10 years are going to need to change their technology. So we think there's a huge opportunity in selling this technology. And particularly with the event of so many new asset classes coming. We're watching tokenization, fractionalization, cryptocurrency. I made a decision a few years ago that we weren't going to enter the crypto world
Hmm.
ourselves. But and being a great avid reader and looking at things of the past, one of the things I was fascinated in is looking at the gold rush, the US gold rush. And the people who really made the money in that business were actually the people who sold the shovels. And I wanted to
Mm.
become a shovel seller to the change in the marketplace because the world of crypto fascinates me, but nobody can predict who actually the winners and losers are going to be. So in the form of, if you want to, in the same thing with the gold miners and the gold rush, nobody knew who was
Yeah.
actually going to hit the gold and who wasn't. And my view was the better way to do this for us, for our investors, is to sell them the latest and best technology to as many of those gold prospectors as there are out there. And I mean, that is our plan when it comes to technology, is these 400, 450 odd potential clients out there to take a decent market share by selling them the most innovative technology in the world today.
Yeah.
And then the
I mean, you
third
meant.
business,
Sorry.
And the third business, when you look at how we can get that to grow, that is about getting scale up capital to growth businesses. I want to create what NASDAQ did back in the 1990s, but not at the later stage companies, at earlier stage companies. In other words, I can see ourselves being the home of growth companies for UK and Europe and getting proportionate and appropriate rules and regulations. So companies, when they go public, actually have something that is appropriate to them when they go public. And I'm very happy to talk about that. We did it about 5-6 years ago. I ended up with a corporate governance code exactly the same as BP or Shell or anybody like that. That isn't necessarily right and proportionate for a company that had at the time maybe 30 staff. So it is about bringing proportionality, appropriateness to rules, regulations, trading mechanisms, so that we can get more companies going public, not as an exit strategy, but actually as a means of raising vital capital for them. And that's the great thing of having this recognized investment exchange license, which we have, which is we are the regulator. We can make those rules proportionate and appropriate for those businesses to get that much needed scale up capital to help change the economy.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, mentioning there, public companies, and obviously as a CEO of a public company, how are you finding that? What are the pros? What are the cons? I imagine you're very much, the glass is always half full, though.
Well, I am. As I said before, you're not an optimist if you don't do this job, if you found a business like this. But actually, it is different. And for that reason, at Aquis, what we did is we created the school, in effect, of public companies. For all viewers and listeners who have children, they will know that children start small, they grow, and ultimately mature. That's exactly the same as companies. But when we send our children to school, we send them to a primary school. And at the primary school, you're not taught Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian Wars and a bunch of Greek and Latin and everything. You're taught how to learn. And the teachers teach you in that way to learn. When we send you to secondary school, the children then actually have more pressure put on them. They have homework. They get taught in a different way. You learn. You really do learn. It's probably the biggest learning curve of your life. And ultimately, you go off to university where you're on your own, but you have the guidance of a professor to help you. And those are the three stages of a company. And if we want to make public companies successful and more private companies to go public, then what we need to do is to help them learn how to be public. So we created this segment called the access segment of our regulated growth market. And that allows companies to be able to become public, but under an easier regime. It's not lowering standards, but more appropriate and proportional regulation and mechanisms of trading. And then as they grow, we move those companies up into the different schools. And that is really important because it means it lowers their costs. It gives them a very, very good understanding of what they need to attain and what they need to do. And then they always have the access to capital and they can grow. And in my view, that is a much, much better way than having private equity companies dumping stock in public markets when they feel the price is right. I want public investors, the retail investor, to have an opportunity to invest in these amazing growth businesses. Because historically, over the last 150 years, a portfolio of microcap and small cap growth value funds have actually outperformed almost every other asset class, about every other asset class. So we need to get investors to take some risk, not putting all your money into that, but some money into these phenomenal growth businesses. And the only way you can do that is if they're public companies, not private companies.
Yeah, so interesting, and I just know that we can have a lot of listeners and watchers that is going to really resonate with, and I'll make sure to put all the links in the bio to the company and whatnot for people to check out. And of course, if you are listening and watching this, please do get a couple of questions in the chat. We'll be happy to answer those. Now, when I was researching the company, Alasdair, I thought this was really interesting. The recent technology contract which you secured with a central bank. How does that come about? How does it align with the sort of the broader technology strategy that you guys have?
Well, I think the first thing is we were very fortunate. We built our own technology, and we were very fortunate to get a lot of support and help, and particularly through Amazon Web Services and the actual developers themselves, and created the world's first perpetual matching engine, which we call Equinox. Now, as I said before, the future is the cloud. The cloud is it'll become much more secure, much
Mhm.
more efficient than it currently is today. But the future is going to be the cloud. It's more
Yeah.
economically beneficial. Have more resilience. It'll be more efficient. Um, so the problem is that the industry has is that most exchanges have actually got a data center working in the more traditional ways, and they've got those contracts for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and they don't want to change. It's a sunk cost. They
Yeah.
have to do that.
Mhm.
So what we have designed is a way that people can transfer over a period of time by being where they are today in a data center, moving to a hybrid model where they can be data center and partly cloud. And when we talk about cloud, it's not just about moving servers into the cloud like some of our competitors do. It is about programming and having cloud native system, and then ultimately move fully into the cloud. And that has become incredibly popular. Of course, when we dealt with the Banco de la República, which is the national bank of Colombia, to operate their bond market, what we've done is this is winning that business against very, very serious competition has really started to put us into the Premier League. And as a sports fan yourself, Sam, I know being in the Premier League changes your life. It changes the way that
Yeah.
people view you. And today we have a very, very significant number of RFPs from pretty major exchanges around the world, and as well as a lot of new and other exchanges that want this ability to move into the cutting edge, latest technology that our peer group today, I'm sure in the future they will get there, but today they can't do. And that is a massive differentiator. And it's for that reason that we will continue to invest as a company in this space of selling technology and selling cutting edge technology.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, the Premier League, it's important to get into it. It's probably more important to stay there, isn't it? And, as a CEO of a public company, how important is it to keep driving, keep innovating, keep pushing on, and not just to, get content?
Well, that's that gazelle in me again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which my old boss, the picture that was sent to me is keep on running here. Do not give up. If you think something is right here, you have to back yourself.
Yeah.
And we're backing ourselves here. This is something where I really believe, there is something to do. It's a competitive advantage. We're very fortunate in the three businesses we've got. All are profitable, all are growing. And I think we have a competitive edge in each one of them. But in the technology piece, I think this can be pretty transformational.
Yeah. When migrating the matching engine to the cloud-based platform and deciding to do that, did you think it was, a risk at the time, or was it we have this, plan, we're going to go through with it, and hopefully you can then really sort of reap the rewards as it develops?
Well, I think we'll reap the rewards. We did it so much that actually the Aquis Stock Exchange business, not the markets business, the
Hmm.
stock exchange business, we moved to the cloud.
Yeah.
So we became, I think, the world's first recognized
Correct.
investment exchange that actually operates in the cloud itself. So we got the regulatory approvals, and that was really helpful because,
Yeah.
the great thing about our markets business is it acts as a great shop window for other people. We're already running on our own technology. Be it markets is still data center based, but we're still running the seventh largest exchange group and in Europe. And the ability to do that sort of proves to people that we have the capacity, the capability, the knowledge of running a significant market. And in fact, I think on the biggest days we've ever had, and some of those were the times during COVID or when the Russian invasion of
Hmm.
Ukraine was announced, all that sort of thing, where we saw particularly high volumes. I don't think we've ever reached more than about 10% of our capacity.
Right.
So our ability to scale this business and scale the technology is significant. And that's very helpful for when you're talking to technology clients, then they can see already you've got the proof and the evidence that your system works, is reliable. It's probably one of the most reliable systems in the world today. Certainly we can prove it from lack of outages and things. And national exchanges today, we read on a very regular basis how many times they have outages.
Yeah, especially, I mean, there was a big outage, weren't there, on Friday last week in the world, which affected many companies.
Well,
This,
and that actually is a very interesting point
yeah,
because on that point there, it's about critical third parties. What is often, and this is something I've taken up quite a lot with the regulators, is critical third parties who may be names that people are not aware of can sometimes create huge issues. In this case of CrowdStrike, that is exactly what happened. It's a critical third party, obviously, for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting. We had our work summer party the night before, and everyone was having really good time, and then wake up on Friday, and it seems like the world is ending. And there's a few sore heads, I'm sure. Last couple
This
of
game
questions.
timing is everything.
Yeah, exactly. Last couple of questions. It'd be great to have you on. What are the most significant challenges you foresee at the moment, and then on the flip side, the opportunities that you think this is going to take us to the next level?
Well, the economy hopefully will be easy. If I answer the company, I have to be very careful about financial predictions. But I'll give you where I believe. Otherwise, the next interview I do with you will probably be from jail, and I certainly don't want that. So the economy, I mentioned earlier that I do believe post the US election and with what we've seen post the UK election, where we start to get stability, that there is a wave of money. So there is a phenomenal opportunity, not just in the next 5 years, I believe actually over the next year. Of course, the big issue economically is geopolitics. The geopolitics of, this year, I think there's been about 50% of the world has actually gone to the elections or had elections. And that in itself, yes, we probably all guessed what Mr. Putin was going to win. But actually, you can't guess today who is going to win in America. I think it is now too close to call.
Mm-hmm.
And that will have a big impact internationally, have an impact into the war in Ukraine. It's going to have an impact with the relationships with China. And all of that will have its knock-on effects. As for Aquis itself, I'm remarkably bullish about the next 5 years. I think if I look at the sort of the technology that we have and what we're going to do and how things are going to change, if I look at the stock exchange business and the opening up of the ability for younger companies to go public and take advantage of capital at an earlier stage through the public markets. And if I look at the innovation that we do in the markets business, I think it's full of hope. But this isn't about Aquis gaining market share. This is about Aquis creating innovation that builds the pie for everybody. Because at the end, what I want to see is a world whereby people can trade anything at any time, anywhere. And that is what's going to happen, without a doubt. Whether that happens in 5 years, I can't say that. But it's going to happen. And therefore, from a personal point of view, from a company point of view, I'm really, really bullish. And having done 47 years, I certainly want to make those 52 years.
Absolutely. Alasdair, thank you so much for coming on Conversation with Leaders. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Not at all. Great fun. Thank you.